That's better. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the reading of my book, Bearing Hope, Tale of Unlikely Bonds, as you can see by the background here. Last time we did this, we read the first two chapters of the book. So we're going to continue where we left off with chapter 3. So if this is something you guys are interested in and would like to help support, you can find a link to the website in my bio. So let's go ahead and start this. Chapter 3, The Backbone of a Revolution. Volunteers have arrived. Shelby, Sydney, signatures still fresh on the digital contracts, their presence a quiet promise echoing through the sterile hallways of the Harmony Sills facility. Dr. George Hadley spent years preparing for this moment, but he knew the real work wasn't his alone. The experiment would survive on science and vision alone. It needed something more, hands to guide it, eyes to watch over it, hearts to carry it forward when he faltered. That's where she came in. Dr. Amina Khalid had spent her life searching for a line between hope and delusion. She had seen the world's cruelty up close, first as a child fleeing Mogadishu with her mother, then later as a doctor in war-torn regions where hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered. And yet she had always clung to it. The belief that life, no matter how precious, deserved a chance. That belief carried her through medical school in London, through long nights in overburdened refugee clinics, through the slow climb to become one of the most respected OBGYNs in the field of high-risk pregnancies. She had made peace with the fact that her role was often a tragic one, delivering babies too small to survive, comforting mothers who would never take their child home. She had learned to measure success not in statistics, but in moments. A heartbeat where there shouldn't have been one, a breath where everyone had given up. So Dr. George Hadley's first reached out to her, she nearly deleted the email. The words were too strange, too outlandish. Xenotransplantation, endangered species, human hosts. It sounded more like science fiction than medicine, but curiosity gnawed at her, and curiosity had always been her greatest weakness. She ignored the email for 2 days. On the third, she opened it again. By the end of the week, she had read every paper George had ever published, scouring through the research on cross-species pregnancies, for fetal adaptation and genetic compatibility. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. And yet, the first time they spoke, his voice was steady, but full of something she hadn't expected. Hope. He painted a vision of a future where science could bridge the gap between species, where women like Shelby and Sydney, women the world had written off, could become vessels that carried endangered life back from the brink. Amina had spent her career saving babies who would never meant to survive. Maybe this wasn't so different. She signed on the next day. If Dr. Khalid was the heart of Harmony Seal, Marla DeWitt was its spine, rigid, unyielding, and often underestimated. In her early 50s, Marla had spent most of her life in the shadows of other people's brilliance. She was the woman behind the curtain, the one who made sure the grants were filed, the shipments arrived on time, and the endless tangle of paperwork didn't swallow the whole operation. She had been Dr. George Hadley's assistant for over 15 years, long before Harmony Seal was even a whisper of an idea. They met when she was still scraping by as a temp at a biotech firm, typing out memos for men who never learned her name. George had been the first person to actually see her, to ask what she thought, what she wanted. "You have a mind for details," he told her once, "not just numbers, people." It had been the first compliment she'd received in years, so she followed him from one research lab to another, through every half-baked experiment and dead-end grant proposal. When he told her about Harmony Seal, she hadn't even blinked. "Someone's got to keep you from burning this place down," she muttered, packing her things. Marla wasn't a scientist. She didn't understand half of what went on behind the closed doors of the lab, but she knew how to keep things moving, how to cut through red tape, and find loopholes in regulation that would have shut the whole operation down before it even started. She also knew how to keep secrets. Harmony SEALs operated on the bleeding edge of what was legally and ethically accepted. The world wasn't ready for what they were doing, not yet. The volunteers who walked through the door were more than just test subjects. They were outcasts, misfits, people with nowhere else to go, and Marla protected them with kind of fierce loyalty that only came from a lifetime of being overlooked herself. Together, Dr. Khalid and Marla formed the unlikely backbone of the Harmony SEAL program. Amina was the steady hand that guided each woman through terrifying unknowns and carrying something not quite human inside them. She learned their stories, their fears. Shelby had broken down in her office one night, shaking, eyes wide with panic. "What if something goes wrong?" she whispered. "What if my body rejects it?" Amina reached across the desk, taking Shelby's trembling hands in hers. "Your body is stronger than you think," she said softly. "And if it's not, then I will be," she said behind them in the night, when the nausea was too much or the nightmares wouldn't let them sleep. She whispered to them in the delivery rooms in English and Somali, the same prayer her mother had once whispered over every child she brought into this world. "May you be stronger than the storm." And then there was Marla. Marla was the quiet sentinel, watching from the edge, making sure no one slipped through the cracks. She brought them tea when they were too sick to eat, snuck in little comforts that weren't in the budget. Soft blankets, books, music. When Sydney hesitated before signing the contract, her fingers gripped the pen like a lifetime. It was Marla who sat beside her, rolling her eyes. "Look, kid, if you don't want to do it, don't. But if you do, I'll make sure you get through it. I'll be here whether you need a shoulder or just someone to complain to." Sydney nodded, throat tight. "You don't even know me." Marla smirked. "Oh, I know your type. Tough until you're not. It's all right. We all need someone." And Sydney signed. It was Marla who pinned the first ultrasound image to the bulletin board in the break room. Tiny, flickering shapes inside human bodies. More miracle than monster. And it was Amina who sat up late, staring at the images long after everyone had gone home, wondering what they had done. Science had taken them to places humanity was never meant to go, and yet there it was, a heartbeat where there shouldn't have been one, a breath when everyone had given up. They were the guardians of something the world wasn't ready to believe in, life in all its strange, stubborn forms. And they stayed because they understood it, but because they believed that even the most impossible things deserve a chance to be born. They were the guardians of something the world wasn't ready to believe in, life in all its strange, stubborn forms, and they stayed, not because they understood it, but because they believed that even the most impossible things deserve a chance to be born. Late that night, when the halls fell quiet and the light dimmed to the softest glow, George would sometimes pass by Amina's office or spot Marla through the glass in the break room, still working, still watching over the fragile revolution. He never interrupted. He just nodded to himself and kept walking. He had lit the match. They were the ones keeping it burning. Chapter 3 is complete. So if you like what you heard in Chapter 3, you can click the link in the bio. That'll bring you to the website that has the book listed, as well as some other merchandise as well. But if you just want the digital copy of the book, it is available on the Kindle app from Amazon. I appreciate you standing here listening to the full 3rd chapter. That's all I have time for today. Thank you. Have a good day.